Today I'll be talking about innocence and what it means to feel innocent in this world. So we start out with, I'm innocent and I'm prepared to prove it. And this becomes, I don't have to prove my innocence or engage with those who see me as guilty until I prove my innocence. So what's that middle ground? And I think that we have to flesh out innocence. It has to become everything from stable, realistic, I'm moral, and this could be an affirmation process. So I am stable and feeling the reverberation in the body. I am realistic, feeling the reverberation in the body. I am moral, feeling the reverberation in the body. I am sane, feeling that reverberation in the body. I am acceptable, both socially and familially, feeling the reverberations in the body. I am successful. I am agreeable. I am easygoing. I am credible. I am cooperative. I am accommodating. I am non-threatening. And looking at innocence as a resource, we have three roles here. There's the nurturer, the one who gives innocence, potential for innocence to others, like a mother saying, you can turn over a new leaf. Just do it a new way, you can try. And then there's the connector, which receives the innocence and potential, and that's the one who impresses with a show of being able to do better. Maybe not the one who says sorry, but the one who physically makes actions to show that they want to be part of the group, that they want to, be connected. So the one who finds ways to relate on your terms gives you innocence. And the one who accepts you as you relate on your terms is the nurturer. And then there's the accumulator who stores up the potential for innocence. This is somebody who might practice a breath work, compassion, like metta meditation, which is loving kindness, where we breathe in love, the concealed love, like the tip of the source of love, and then we breathe out that tip of the source of love. We breathe in the breath of love. Breathe it out. We breathe in the love of right now, this physical moment, no matter how tight or loose it is. We breathe it out. We breathe in the love of oneness, that we're not breathing out or in, we're just being breathed. And even a short breath practice like that, everything we look at, we come with less judgment. We see less edges. So going inside, and I use the 4 breaths because the tetragrammaton in Hebrew, one of the names of God for presence, which also has to do with the Midian people who were not Jewish. You might say even the presence worshippers. In Celtic shamanism, they are natural mystics. So those of us who can connect with the physical world as still presence of God, this might be a great practice, as breathing in the trees, breathing out the trees, love. They breathe us in, we breathe them out, this oneness. So that gives us innocence. We have a right to be here as we are, recognizing that there's potential for all. We have been small-minded in our judgments. We can improve, and so can everyone around us. We start to see ourselves with more understanding. We want to be so much better than we are. And then we start to realize how fleeting life is. And it's okay to not be perfect right now, but we don't either have to prove our innocence right now. We can rest in letting go and letting grow. This is the meditation for innocence, is letting go of the resentments and forgiving others. If we don't have to be the victim, we also don't have to be the judge. And we don't have to prove it. Sometimes innocence is only possible from afar, because there's something called relational opposition, where we engage with people by rebelling against them. In order to know who we are, we might say, I'm not you. A bonding through closeness that is opposing something. So, that requires us to be okay with being different and unique, and yet still innocent. And that means we've got to get in touch with our uniqueness and our difference. And we also have to learn how to respect differences and uniqueness. And we have to be somewhat more open-minded and less judgmental of the first words that come out of somebody's mouth or how they're dressed. If we want to feel innocent, we've got to let everybody feel innocent, even in those moments where we feel we're not innocent. So some ideas for that in workshops I've done, and pretty much the same thread. And sometimes we're only hanging by a thread, and yet everything's okay, and that's the practice. Innocence, as it could be, our innocence is hanging by a thread. And that's too scary, maybe. And so we look around saying, who else is not innocent? Misery loves company, but not consciously. Like, we kind of judge everybody, and then we say, okay, I'm not so bad. But it doesn't actually redeem us. So healing our guilt, which is that I'm just a speck. I'm just that thread. I'm just that thread that is hanging it all together, rather than resting and trusting that, sure, we could zoom in on that thread, that the only reason I'm okay is because everyone's okay, because we're all meant to be here, is actually to feel uncontaminated. Not judging anybody for being contaminated. What happened to them before has nothing to do with who they are now. They can always turn over a new leaf. And it's to be rightly sized. We're not better or worse than anybody. If we had somebody else walking in our footsteps, we don't know if they would do better with our challenges. And this is not to say that we should make ourselves small, that we would do worse in anyone else's history or future. But it's to say that we've got to be right size for our life. And we've got to let go of some of this comparison because of cruise control. When we allow things to let go and let grow, we just breathe that in, letting go. Breathing in, letting go, even if it's hard. Whatever it takes to let it go. And then breathing in, letting grow. And letting that go. Letting even the growth go. Trusting the process. So we access enhancements that way. Somehow when things are able to be existing, even in imperfection, we start to see cool combinations of new ways of doing things and relating in new ways, instead of just yes, no, black, white, on, off. I know I'm white because you're black. I know I'm yes because you're no. And I know I'm, strong because you're weak. And I know I'm tall because you're short. And not exactly true. I'm 5'2.5", but the same with all of them. So if we could stop with this relational opposition, which is very much like stuck a little bit in like the power struggle of the 2 and 3-year-old, it's assuming the other one is going to punish us and likes for us to be guilty so they can win. And unfortunately, a lot of our fathers, as women or even men, a lot of our fathers kind of got attached to being right. And maybe like if we were disobedient, we got in trouble, even if it became such that our parents kind of like forgot their intentions and became disgraceful and wanted us to suffer their own flesh and blood, their children. So part of forgiveness is recognizing our parents felt really powerless over us and the world. And our work is to learn how to do cruise control, how to be okay with being powerless over others, over the world. In order to access our own enhancements, which can come up when we stop, when we take a breath, when we stop doing and fixing and controlling. And this is how we become more fair and have integrity, because we just don't have enough energy to be God for everybody. So we start to realize that the consolation is that each one has their own source power, is being breathed, is being given trust, is being taken care of. And from this place, we may not act to others in a way that's like not what we would want done to us, because we're guiltily innocent. And we look at everybody as guiltily innocent. Everyone has defects and shortcomings, and mostly it comes from being hurt in this world and traumatized by humans and feeling unloved and really not knowing how to ask for what we need. And It doesn't mean that it's okay to hurt others, but it's not okay to keep holding on to the judgment, because that inherently tells us it's not okay. The more we judge and say something's not okay, the more this idea that things are not okay becomes part of our consciousness. And the idea of the evil eye is that when you look around at people and say, they're not worthy of that, if I had it, I would be happier, or they're getting too much, or that one doesn't deserve, or that one is judging everybody. Like, we look around like that, we actually attract that energy of being looked at. And it's, God as our shadow is the area we don't want to look at. So actually where we agree to let the light in is where we can be transformed. So the more we're thinking others are judgmental is actually we're sharing unsolicited information about our judgments. So just having complaints and criticisms about everything all the time is a good indicator that, and being honest about it is the first step, is a good indicator that we're looking for more power instead of actually looking to have more integrity. So integrity means a power inside that's a strong core. I know who I am. I'm okay with my mistakes. And it comes from really looking at ourselves. It comes from taking a chance with the eyes closed to feel which thoughts that are kind of like either violating or violent, or, innocence-based, guilt-based, like, I wish I wasn't, or, all this kind of like figuring out that tension, figuring it out. And breathing into the heart more from that place is actually like breathing from the hips opens the heart, like instead of, so the mind kind of like goes on a short circuit when we're judging too much and we're not able to connect and relate, which is back and forth and circuitry. And in other words, we can't acknowledge the challenges because our mind is just so busy trying to get it done. It doesn't actually take into account the rising and falling information of the body, the vocal body, the engineer body. Excuse me, when I say engineer body, I mean the resourceful one who's like figuring out ways to put things together in new combinations. The creativity aspect is a mechanic in the world. We all have that. From little babies to adults, everybody has this way of looking at the world through that judgment lens in order to put things together. So we separate it to bring it together. And that's maybe why we could say, like, who I used to be as a judge was not very innocent, because I thought that I couldn't trust other people who had power. And so letting that go is, I don't have to prove my innocence. I have as much power as you. And the power source is taking care of everything. And nobody knows what's coming next, even if we have dreams or insights. It's like we don't know exactly how it's going to manifest. We just have little signals. So from our subconscious, if it learns to trust us, if we allow ourselves to be innocent, even if we're different than what we thought. If we thought all these things are not innocent, we may be judging people, and actually it's a version of us that needs to emerge. When it emerges, it can access those enhancements and acknowledge the challenges of being. And that allows for the true innocence, that power, coerced innocence. And then, of course, we could release the anxiety of not having a face, because we don't have to maintain this role of looking a certain way and only being innocent as women if we're pretty, or men if we're strong. And everybody becomes whores and liars, and it's a horrible life to live in when nobody has a face that you can trust. So letting go of the faces and kind of like letting everyone's face be everyone's face, and looking at the way a baby does, looking with fresh eyes, it's so comforting for everybody. It gives a sense of security when we can gaze at each other without quickly seeing little hairs out of line, or pimples, or eyes too close together, or eyebrows too big, or stain on the teeth, or white stuff at the edges of the lips, or not enough of a chin. And releasing pity, which is that everyone hates me, is really releasing discontent. We've got to maintain a lot of dark energy in order to have people feel brighter than us. And the way we do this is by constantly telling ourselves we're guilty of this or that. And that was a survival to make the best of what we had at certain times. But it's not relevant if we're doing the work now to be the light for ourselves. So we got to see this other side of showing up for ourselves and giving ourselves credit and innocence is also losing those very ways in which we had to have less responsibility and less power of our own security. So not everybody hates me, but I might be going to people and look for love in the wrong places. I might be going to judgmental people hoping, because it feels familiar, to finally win them over. So instead, to release the discontentment of like, I'm not feeling loved, I'm not feeling warmth, I'm not feeling trust, I'm not feeling anyone understands. At that point, we try new things. We just got to try something new. We got to stay open to, without expecting the results, just trying something new. A new skincare routine, a new walk in the park, making a new friend, like talking to a stranger. You got to do it for you. Only you know when you're opening through the fear and releasing the discontent. Only you know. Nobody else can do it for you or know for you. Taking care of myself, whether it's going to the doctor for something I pushed off for years, or it's getting a juicer, or it's asking somebody to buy you a new pillow because your neck hurts, or it's lighting incense for yourself every day, but making it a process of caring for yourself instead of going to people who don't care about you. And they don't care about their self. They don't care about their physical body, their emotional body. They might speak very aggressive. They may not care about rest. They may disturb your sleep. They may not care about a safe home. They may be loud and obnoxious, or they may have a foul mouth and curse a lot, and they don't care about your sensitive ears. Can't go to people who don't care if we're caring about ourselves. And expressing the true self means we can say you're being very aggressive and it's making me uncomfortable, or I grew up with people who didn't really curse and I wish you would stop, or it really is too much for me when you wake me up, because I'm snoring. I'd rather you just tell me, like, roll over. Like, I don't want you to turn on the light and be aggressive. Like, that's not a compassionate, kind way to do that for me. And, or I really don't want to talk about, the dentist right now, or whatever it is, just being real and trusting that this other person's not going to try to exploit you because they could have the power to. And that's a hard one. That's repatterning yourself, learning to be yourself, and then it will hurt when people reject you and judge you, and that'll give you a lot of information about who you're talking to and what you're looking for from them. And finally, developing skills, finding enrichment and meaning is actually doing things you like to do, eating food you like, going to see art, going in nature, reading good books, taking classes, joining meetings which talk about recovery and learning new skills about communication. It is maybe learning to drive a car, instead of being so afraid because the driver's ed teacher was really mean and stressful, and kind of like, instead of maybe hanging around jealous people who gossip, maybe like just going and buying dollar store makeup and doing your own makeup, or getting some clay and baking it and making your own earrings with, like, the hooks from another pair. Just really finding ways to give life some meaning. You're here and you've got to have little activities. If you have a way to use your hands, that's great, because it brings both sides of your brain together. If you have a way to use your feet, maybe going scootering and make sure you use both sides, or, that's why people like tapping sometimes, because, bringing things into the body, bringing that enrichment, that sensual enrichment, going and watching people dance, watching people sing, maybe even joining in, finding meaning, finding enrichment, finding new skills you could develop. This will give innocence, because it's a process. Innocence, again, to just be, to let our guard down, means that we could just be free to enjoy. We're free to inspire. We're free to be free. And now the second half of this is ideal partner. For a lot of us, an ideal partner is a reflection of us, but either it's our ideals or it's somebody who makes us feel like we're great. So I wrote a list of the qualities of an ideal partner that is not better or worse than me. And this actually gives me the sense of being innocent to have love. You might want to do this with ideal job, ideal family, ideal home, ideal, skincare routine, ideal anything. If you have a lot of problems with acne, a friend of mine who passed away this past year struggled for many years. So finally, to feel innocent for ideal skin, she would have to do this too. And she did in her own way. So each of us have to find a way. How do we bridge that gap from where we don't feel innocent or permission to receive what we love and to be what we love? So in other words, to both be the connector and the nurturer and the accumulator. All three aspects of ourself. The one who is giving innocence to ourselves, the one who can relate to others by giving innocence, and without needing others to be a means to an end, just really seeing them and allowing them, to confess themselves and to be open. And then, of course, also receiving innocence, bearing ourselves and being open, and then letting people still love us and want us in their life and even comfort us and even respect us more. So now moving this into a real part of life, like making it solid, I'm going to use ideal partner. And I wrote a list, and I'm just going to read it. And you're welcome to write your own list and get any inspiration from me. This is where I struggle to feel innocent in partnership. Doesn't have a double standard, non-hypocritical unfairness. Has a value of innocent until proven guilty with relationships. Dignity and respect in difficult moments, accepting differences. Has own hobbies, friends, interests, resources, and all part of self-care. A stable, secure sense of self, not too big, not too small. Recognizes each other's challenges, sacrifices efforts, limits, and strengths. Open and curious, trying opportunities, new things, okay with wobbles and mistakes. Next, expressing real feelings for the sake of truth versus for the appearance or the approval. A growth-oriented learner who's humble and wants to develop skills. Not hiding our faces like defensive turtles who are ashamed to exist. Conscious of breath, becoming empty, kind of conscious of creative energy, which is the fullness overflowing, and conscious of destructive energy, which is very edges, like cutting everything that's not me, pushing it away, kind of that energy, which is not a bad thing. It's required, for growth. We have to do a little pruning. Enhance each other's lives, being good company, not escaping the presence. Letting the practice be even in the difficult moments. Has a support system and can find those moments of cruise control. Letting the mundane moments be significant and inspired too. Speaking about faulty beliefs, verbal processing, integrating, in other words, confronting I feel defective out loud. Enjoys cleanliness, financial independence, privacy, and minimalism. Time and attention is the reciprocated, shared, sacred sharing. Both can be comfortable with being a mirror and a guru for each other, sister, brother, mother, father. They both practice not taking others' wounds and expectations personally. Recognizing it gets worse before it gets better. Healing means pus comes out, old stuff, while we stay safe. Intuitive grasp of sacred and profane. So what is foul and what is pleasant. When it comes to family, social, culture, and spiritual, in other words, has built in a sense of respect or manners, dignity, working on it. Ask each other questions, inquire for increased awareness, rather than making assumptions and projecting onto the other exactly who we need them to be to fit either a story instead of being open to see them for who they are. I hope that this proves helpful and you find more innocence in your life. Have a blessed day.